Yeah.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to KongaCast, where we discuss all things video games, especially relating to Nintendo. I'm your host, Ryan, and I'm joined today with my co host, Adonis. Why don't you go ahead, say hello, Adonis?
Hello, everybody. It's good to be back. It's been not too much in the news this week. We don't have too much to cover, so it's going to be a little bit of a shorter episode. But for our first topic this week, it's a bit of a bombshell. Ryan, you want to go ahead and kick it off this week?
Yeah, sure, man. So, this episode, we're going to start off by talking about the release of Dragon Age the Veilguard, which, as of early 2025, there haven't been a whole lot of notable releases, but this being one of them. Older franchise, it's been around for a while. New entry in the franchise. The new game is out, and people are not loving it. So, why don't we just go into this a little bit and maybe get into some of the comments from EA themselves on why this game is not doing so well.
Yeah, the first of which is from a very prominent figure in EA. I'm sure a lot of people have heard of this guy, Andrew Wilson, the common gamer's favorite person in the world. He's been known to just be very live service oriented, and in that spirit, uh, you know, he made a claim about Dragon Age Veilguard. Now, like you said, Dragon Age Veilguard did not perform very well. It just didn't really have the heart and soul of the original Dragon Age games. The gameplay, not as fun and exciting. The dialogue, not great. Very much so boring, uninspired. Storyline doesn't feel great. Not necessarily a terrible game, but the common consensus is it's not good enough. And that led to bad ratings, and that led to poor sales. Excuse me. The CEO, Andrew Wilson, chalks this up to Dragon Age Veilguard not being a live service. Need I say more? It's just so ridiculous. It is one of the most ridiculous statements I've seen from a high-level executive at a video game company ever. That is insanity.
So yeah, there's legitimate criticisms about the game. It seems like both new fans and old fans are kind of pointing out some of the warts around the game. You mentioned a couple, the dialogue options being lacking, which is a big deal for a story-driven RPG such as this one. So yeah, a couple different things that are wrong with the game, making people not enjoy it as much. The CEO of EA has come out and said to his investors, one of the reasons we see Dragon Age Veilguard as underperforming is because it's not a live service game and people are looking for shared world experiences, is the quote. So, yeah, I mean, how many times have we talked about live service games and kind of like how every CEO wants to have the most perfect live service game because I don't blame them. You look at the success of Call of Duty, Fortnite, GTA Online,
Exactly.
Marvel Rivals. There's so many of those games. Actually, there's not even that many. There's a couple of those games that sit at the top of the live service genre that eat away at people's time. And ultimately, those are the games that people play and spend their money on. So there are, I would say, like 5 or 6 games that kind of have that stranglehold on the live service genre where so many other CEOs want that, of course. So that is the trend. That is what every big publisher seems to be chasing right now. And it just comes off as a little out of touch in tone depth when a single player game like Dragon Age comes out and the CEO of the company who created the game is also going to come out and say, well, it failed because it's not a multiplayer game. Well, that's just like tone deaf because there's plenty of fantastic single player games out there that do fine.
Yeah, and
So,
that's the thing
kind of a,
is, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's just kind of a weird comment, don't you think?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And immediately when I heard this, I was like, he's not wrong about wanting to create a lucrative live service game because there are so many shining examples of live service games just printing a stupid amount of money.
Yep.
Like you said, Destiny 2, World of Warcraft, GTA Online is one of, if not the most grossing entertainment product of all time. Like, just oodles and oodles of cash coming out of these things. So he's right as a CEO for wanting to create something like this. But he's missing the point. Those games are selling so well because they are good. They're good games. Your game has to be good to make money. If your game ain't good, it's not going to make you money. I'm not necessarily saying Dragon Age of Veilguard is a bad game. I also haven't played it, so my knowledge on the video game is somewhat limited, but there's been so much criticism, um, and from people that I know, from people that I frequently watch on video game media, it's just been everywhere that there's just glaring problems with the game. And to chalk it up just to, oh, it's because people want live service, like that you're just digging your hole even deeper than it already was. So it's going to continue to sell bad, and now it's kind of your fault. At least that's how I feel.
Yeah, and
You know
it
what I mean?
sucks too because the developers of this game is BioWare, and BioWare, I mean, they have like a pretty storied history. They have some great franchises that they've worked on. Most notably the Mass Effect franchise, and so I feel like BioWare is kind of just getting tugged around by EA right now. So first it was Mass Effect. Make a bunch of Mass Effect games. They're super popular. People love them. Then once Mass Effect kind of got burned out, it's like, okay, time to forget about Mass Effect. We're going to move on to the next franchise, which they started, believe they were like working on like Star Wars at some point, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic.
Yeah.
And then people got sick of Star Wars. All right, we're gonna move you on. We're gonna focus you back on Dragon Age. That's gonna be the big focus. And like, there's been some like reports that come out like this where it seems a little short-sighted on EA's part to just kind of fully press onward, onward, onward. We're gonna just milk this franchise for 5 years or so, and then we're gonna move on to the next one. It's just not very forward thinking, and it sucks for BioWare because they're kind of getting like tugged around a bit, and they've made some great games in the past. I think of the Mass Effect games, so it sucks to kind of be, I guess, led astray a bit by the publisher. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like this is a very similar situation to what we were talking about with Warner Bros. Last week. I think EA just has a very like their judgment is askew, and that can lead, that can have a trickle down effect where the development studio just feels hamstrung and can't really make a product that they're fully behind. Um, and I feel like BioWare has been in that situation for years now. So like you mentioned, BioWare is Mass Effect, amazing games, like mostly. And I heard Andromeda was very bad, um, like bad lip syncing, bad animation, just not fun gameplay, not fun dialogue, stuff like that. So that was the first sign, at least I think in chronologically, when Mass Effect Andromeda. I don't see that actually now that okay, yeah. So Mass Effect Andromeda was 2017.
Yeah.
Then Anthem came out. You even remember that one, Ryan?
I only remember it because it was so unsuccessful.
Exactly. So that's another nail. And now we have this. Like you can tell where they really started to fall off. And I kind of feel bad for BioWare, but I also don't I'm not on the ground floor. So it could just be that BioWare is falling off, like they don't have the same people that made great games of the past. But if if this is any indicator, it I would guess that the leadership in EA, like I said, their judgment is just askew. And Veilguard for me was like BioWare has to nail this or they're in trouble. And so is EA. EA is going the same direction that Warner Bros, Ubisoft, other big companies are going. And it just like when will they learn, man? They just don't learn.
Yeah, it sucks. I mean, EA is no exception when it comes to the layoffs. They've laid off their employees already in the past 18 months. I believe like they may have had two different waves of layoffs. I can't remember exactly. But so, you're a little fearful for BioWare. You hope they don't become the next one on the chopping blocks. We talk about this. Unfortunately, it sounds like every week now we're talking about, all the business side of video games and kind of like where the industry's at. But I think it's also important to kind of talk about. So yeah,
Yeah.
we'll see what becomes of Dragon Age. Maybe they turn the game around with some patches or whatever. But I mean, some of the issues you mentioned, like the dialogue options, that's pretty core to the story. I mean, that's core to the experience. So I don't know how much you
Oh,
can really change there.
yeah,
Yeah.
and there's one thing I wanted to mention about that. I meant to mention this when we started talking about it. One of the glaring issues, like I said, like you were just saying, is the dialogue. That has never been more present in one of the most important characters in this Dragon Age. I can't remember the name of the character, but it's you've probably seen an image of her. It's like this girl with blue skin. She's got like horns and pretty hair, and you've probably seen her once or twice. And she's just one of these characters that seems very prevalent nowadays, where she's just mean for no reason. You remember Forspoken from Square Enix?
Yeah.
How
Yeah, I
the
do.
main character, was just like really snarky and just like not likable at all. That's exactly what this character is like, and I feel
Okay.
like that has become very prevalent. Like they
It
just have to
so
sit down.
I
Good,
think I don't know where this stemmed from, Adonis. So I'm gonna go on a tangent though. So
please do.
this comedy of like, okay, so that just happened. You know, I don't know what you call that, but like that kind of quippiness. You know what it is?
Yeah.
It's kind of like the Marvel humor. You know, that's kind of in a lot of Marvel movies where it's like, yeah, we're gonna keep it light with all these like weird, fluffy jokes within the movie. You know, maybe it stems from that or something before that. I don't know, but I don't love it in my video games where it's just this like quippy, very 2020s esque type of humor that doesn't feel very substantial or here to stay. Whatever. It is a total tangent, but that just you made me think about all that.
There's a time and a place, right? And when that time and place is the entire game, like why would you even want to be around this character? Would you think about it? Would you want to hang out with this person in real life? No? Then you probably should change their dialogue. Um, Now, to be fair, I don't know how she progresses. Maybe she does become a lot nicer and more enjoyable. Like I said, I have not played the game, and I don't want to be too harsh when it's unnecessary. But like, I want to see that trend go away. I want more likable characters. So yeah, kind of a bummer to start this week's news, but the next topic is one that is very, very exciting.
Yeah, man. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about Monster Hunter Wilds, just because this is such an anticipated game for the two of us. I believe you've had a little bit more time to play it, or at least more people are getting their hands on the game and more people are talking about it. And it's kind of opened up this discussion. Of course, Monster Hunter being such a important and popular franchise in the current gaming sphere. There's a lot of different opinions flying around on this new game. Is it the best Monster Hunter? Is there steps back in certain ways? You know, that's what people are kind of starting to talk about. So why don't you just kick us off, Adonis?
So, I have officially started playing the game. My opinion is, in terms of performance, is a little biased. I'd like to state that first because I'm playing on console, which it is very much so more optimized on. But so let's start with the bad stuff. I always like starting with the bad stuff first. Get it out of the way, right? Bad stuff is the story is so boring. It is so
Really?
boring. So Monster Hunter is notorious for having a like step like a kind of like a stair step story where it's like you just take a step, we get you on that step with the narrative, and then you fight the monster. Like the story is only there for to
It's usually a
introduce.
backseat. Yeah.
Exactly. It is a gameplay first game. Which Capcom is, like that's their staple is gameplay first, kind of like arcade style, like Street Fighter, like I love the story of Resident Evil. But like, very fun game to play, maybe not the most deep story in the world. Oh no, you know what? I'm gonna walk that one back. I'm gonna walk that one back before I get in trouble. Back on topic. It's just not a great story. Um, I will say there are tons of interesting characters and events and stuff. They just it feels a little lackluster, and it could just be that like I am playing on the English version of the game, and the voice acting just seems very um what's the word? Just kind of lacking. So that could be it. Serviceable story, just boring. And I haven't even beaten it yet, so it could get better. But that's my least favorite thing about the game. Everything else is stellar. 10 out of 10 video game. First things first, the visuals. So I am playing on, they give you an option to play on resolution mode, or, sorry, you may have just heard my sister scream at the top of her lungs for whatever reason. I don't know why she did that. And so there's resolution mode and performance mode. I am playing on performance mode, which brings the resolution down to like 720p ish. And even still, the game is breathtakingly beautiful. They did a masterful job on all of the environments. It feels like you're on a safari. And so, there's like the windswept plains and there's the oil well basin. There's this like giant forest area that has like red running water caused by one of the monsters, and like all of this, there's super deep ecology as well. Like it really does feel like a living, breathing world, which they are so good at doing in the Monster Hunter franchise. The performance has stayed at 60 frames on performance mode, which I know was a very big problem that it was struggling to do so at release. They released 2 big patches after release, and both of those were extremely successful. Like I remember at launch, hair physics looked horrible, and they probably did that just to increase or at least hair and cloth physics, stuff like that, looked horrible. And the next day they looked great. Everything all the problems that I saw visually were fixed within 2 days of release. Excuse me. And so that stuff aside, the gameplay, oh my God, it's like a drug. It's literally like a drug, man. It is so much fun to play. I am deciding to take a break from my beloved Gunlance. The Gunlance is taking a secondary seat for me, which you can bring 2 weapons out at any time onto a hunt. And I am now a great sword main. The big sword go boom, man. That's a whole lot of damage on that big boy. Having a great time. They introduced the new system, the new gameplay system that they introduced for Wilds is the focus mode, which helps your character always face the monster, which has notoriously been very difficult to do. And it reveals weak points, so you see little red dots near the monster's weak point, and you can do a focus strike to destroy those weak points and do lots of extra damage. It's like a one-stop shop fix for what they did with the Clutch Claw in Monster Hunter World. I really, really love what they did with this focus mode, man. They totally honed it in such a beautiful way. And monster design, just unmatched, man.
Yeah.
The mocap is awesome. The designs of the monsters is so unique, and the roars, oh my God, the roars are like, they give you chills when a monster roars right next to you. And it's such a hard feeling to explain, but I wanted to talk about this. Monster Hunter has never really been like a super hype thing for me. Like it's just like, I'm gonna sit down, play some Monster Hunter, chill out, fight some monsters. But now the fights that you engage with the monsters feel very much so cinematic. Like I get chills when my character and a monster are staring each other down at the beginning of a fight. It feels like you're in the middle of a movie. Let me paint you a picture.
That's sweet.
I'm fighting this giant, it's called the Shaguma, a very large, like bear lion looking monster that's like the alpha. So he's massive. And we're in this very sandy, arid region. And the monster, the Shaguma, gets pulled under by a bunch of like sandworms. And my hunter's like, dang, that was crazy. And then he explodes out of the ground, murders all of the sandworms. A giant thunderstorm starts, and it's like super cinematic. And the Doshagama looks over at you like, oh, you're still here, and roars at you, and your hunter's just like, let's go. And just chills, man. And you're going at it in the middle of a thunderstorm with this giant bear-looking, lion-looking monster, and it's just cinema. Absolute cinema. If GTA 6 does not come out this year, this is probably my game of the year. Period.
if GTA 6 doesn't have a giant bear lion hybrid that you can fight, it is officially not my game of the year. I'm gonna come out and say that now.
Bold claim.
No, but it's great to hear you talk about. So everything you've said, I've kind of like been seeing the same thing online. That the monster designs are fantastic. Just the presentation in general is fantastic. The one exception being the frame rate, the performance. So
On PC.
hopefully, the performance, at least on PC, gets patched and more people are able to enjoy it to its fullest potential. We'd love to see that happen. I get the sense that just maybe the way Capcom does their pricing, they might not get the most amount of sales that they would like in the first couple of weeks, first couple of months here, because they are known to discount their games. So like you can fully expect this game to be discounted maybe to 75%, 50% of its price, once we're 6 months, a year out from now. And I think that's gonna, I think consumers are smart. They've kind of like picked up on those patterns depending on the publisher. So that and the performance issues on PC might not lead to the most amount of sales at launch, but we all know if they do the same thing that they did with Rise and World, that this game will get a monster DLC update at some point. One of the
So,
$30 or $40 expansions. So I know you'll be ready for that because you're playing
oh, yeah.
now, and you'll be ready to go once that drops.
So this is
But
very interesting that you mentioned that.
yeah,
This is something I wanted to mention, that the very common criticism right now is that the game is too easy. Ah, man, this happens every time, man. This is how they get
oh,
you.
you fools, you
You
sweet
fools.
summer child.
Monster Hunter World comes out in 2018, if I remember correctly. Game is very easy. That's what people are saying anyway. Game very easy. Maybe the end game monsters are pretty hard, but game really easy. Capcom knows how to sell DLC, man, because they're like, oh, game too easy? Here's a DLC that's absurdly difficult. All of a sudden, game is too hard. How did that happen? Monster Hunter Wilds comes out. Game too easy. I wonder what they're going to do for the DLC. I wonder. Classic. It just never gets old. They do the same thing every time, man. So
Yeah, it's like the opposite of people that are getting into a Souls game when the Souls game releases. It's like this is way too hard, and then they have to patch it to make it easier, or at least people get better the more they practice. So it's the opposite with Monster Hunter.
yeah, it is, and I want to talk about that at some point. I feel like that would be an interesting topic. How like game complainers kind of ruin things. Like they ruined the difficulty of Elden Ring for me. Like when one of the main bosses, spoilers ahead technically, Radon. I think we've talked about it before. Radon, one of the most difficult bosses of all time upon release, and then he gets nerfed into oblivion because people are complaining. That bothers me. A conversation for another day.
You could do what the Smash team does, and Sakurai and they listen to feedback to an extent, but sometimes they just don't care. Like they have nerfed King K. Rool before when he is clearly not the best fighter in the game. Stuff like that. So you could do that. Just be a publisher that just doesn't really listen as much.
So what you're telling me is that I can blame the K. Rool nerfs for losing to you every time he plays this Smash?
Absolutely. That is absolutely what I'm saying.
Yes, thanks. So that aside, the performance issues on PC, yeah, it's not acceptable. Like it's just straight up horrible on PC for lower end machines. And now I've seen higher end machines do totally fine, but not everybody has those. And I feel like that's all they were really optimized for. The lower end machine. Well, all right. Let me take that back. I'm not very computer savvy, so I don't know what Capcom does. I'm not on the inside, but like it should not have been that bad on release. And I think people are struggling to get even 30 frames on like 30. I would say even up to like the 40 series is struggling of GPUs. The 40 series, which is the most recent after the 50 series, which just came out. This is NVIDIA GPUs. I'm an NVIDIA guy, so that's really all I know. But yeah, like it should not have been performing that bad on PC. But here's the thing. Monster Hunter, or sorry, not even Monster Hunter, most games come out with their console version first. And then like 6 months later, you get that PC port. But this time they did both at the same time. So we get a faster PC port, but the PC port is not as good. I don't know which one I'd prefer. Like wait for a better PC port or get the PC port on release, just not as good. But this could be why that is. Just makes sense to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, well, I hope you keep enjoying the game. I mean, this is one of those games that kind of sticks with you for a bit. You know, there's a lot to do in Monster Hunter games. There's a lot of loot to collect and a lot of monsters to hunt. So, one of those games that I feel like once you're in the cycle, you know, the gameplay loop is just so addicting. You know, battle monster, get better gear, fight bigger monster, and it's a fantastic gameplay loop that Capcom's really nailed the last several
Agreed.
entries.
It'll get you
So.
one day.
Yeah, no, I think I will pick this up if it comes. I feel like it's a when it comes to Switch too.
Yeah.
I played. What did I play? I probably played like 8 or so hours of Monster Hunter Rise. They had like a free trial for Switch,
Right.
and I just started playing it like the last day or two of the free trial, and I just cranked out a bunch of hunts in that time, and I loved it. But I didn't pick it up once the trial ended for no reason other than I was playing other stuff and I was like, all right, I'll pick up Monster Hunter Rise eventually, and then I just never really got around to it. So
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. And that's like the worst game in the series according to the community,
really,
which is crazy. Yeah, people didn't like Rise as much. It was just too different than OG Monster Hunter. You know what I mean? Just a little too
wow,
quick, a little too arcadey. This is much more. This being Wilds is like much more, a little slower, more intentional with your movement, stuff like that.
gotcha, interesting. Okay, well, first of all, if you're watching on video, apologies. The light behind me went out, so now I look like a ghost because my light in front of me is doing all the work. But anyway, let's get into what we've been playing recently, Adonis. And why don't we just start off with what we played together over the weekend because we had so much fun doing this.
We did.
Adonis and I played most of the co-op of Portal 2 together. We got through 4 of the, I don't know what you call them, worlds, levels, whatever. And the 5th one opened up. I don't know if there's 5 in total or if there's more after 5. But man, playing Portal 2 with you, Adonis, was a good time. We just cranked out 4 worlds in like 4.5 hours or whatever. And it's just one of those games that just hits so well because there really isn't a lot like Portal. So to be able to play Portal 2 co-op with a buddy, combining our brain powers, our brain juices flowing together, just a fantastic time. And I know you feel the same.
It was. It was the most fun I've had in like a co-op video game in a very, very long time. And this is not the kind of game that I am known to love. Like I don't usually like puzzle games. And I kind of felt that going in. I was like, man, I hope I don't end up being a total drag because I'm, like a giga gamer, World of Warcraft, Elden Ring, Monster Hunter. But I had no such struggle. Like the charm is just all over the place in that game.
Yeah.
And I think it's also very much so boosted by playing with a friend. And man, we blasted through those puzzles. I am very, very impressed at how fast we got through all 4 of those worlds. Now, we were going to go back and do the 5th and beat the game in one day. Ended up having it was my D&D night, so I didn't have the time. But yeah, and like you can really feel how well crafted this game is because it just keeps you going. You just don't want to stop. You want to solve and solve and solve, and every time you get that, oh, I get it, I understand now. Like
Yeah.
it's like drugs, for lack of a better word.
It's definitely to me like a bucket list game. Like everyone needs to play this before they die. Not to be morbid, but before you die, you must play Portal and Portal 2.
You got it.
Because not only are they 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10 fantastic games, however you want to describe it, they're so unique and they have such a unique flavor to them. It's not just the puzzles, but it's also like the setting, it's the dialogue, it's the humor from Gladys just constantly berating you as you're playing through the levels. It's just so funny. And I mean, just in general, how many games are funny? I feel like humor is really not always leveraged to the best ability in video games, just in general. But there's just so much around these games that make me feel like it's a bucket list item for anyone who's looking for if there's 50 games, 25 games, 20 whatever however many games you got to play before you die. Portal 2 is one of them. Valve just knows what they're doing, man. They don't make games often, but when they do, they have a vision and they deliver.
Yeah, there's a reason why that studio, like it's small. It's a smaller studio, and like everyone that works at Valve is a million verging on billionaire because they just are so good at what they do. And granted, they have Steam, which is, that's pretty big. Steam's, quite
Yeah,
large.
that I mean, more than keeps the lights on. That's their main business model, but
Yeah.
it allows them it allows them to pursue, pet projects, creative ideas like this.
Yeah, this is a very good example of letting your development studio cook and make what they want to make rather than be like, well, you got to make this in this way because this is our shareholders told us that we should do it like this. And like, no, let them cook and they'll make a game like Portal 2, which, and by the way, one of my favorite moments in like all of the times I ever played co op in a game was so me and Ryan are trying to solve one of the puzzles, right? And I'm like experimenting. I'm jumping into this like tube looking thing that launches me across the map, and I fall down to my death, and because I'm trying to make it on this platform that we're supposed to get to, and so I try it, and I'm like, it's not enough distance. Like I won't be able to make it, and then Ryan goes, "You can totally make it, man. Just like try it again." I'm like, I tried again, die again, and I'm like, Ryan, I'm telling you, we got to do it. And then I figured it out. I'm like, oh, I get it now. I get it now. And Ryan's like, no, no, you're gonna do it this way. And like I said, and I was like, oh yeah, right. Oh yeah, right. Oh yeah. And Ryan's like, watch this. I'll do it. And then I just got a perfect view of Ryan falling to his death
Yeah,
exactly as I did 3 times.
just identical to what you were doing.
Dude,
Gotta love the arrogance there.
that was so funny. And then there's on the flip side, you being calm and collected and actually looking around to like how to solve puzzles, and me just running around like a crazy person shooting portals in every direction, especially whenever we were done like getting into the pods. I looked like a crazy person on it. Was, oh my god, man, just so much fun.
Yeah, very. And there was one puzzle right before we ended. I think it was the second to last or last. It was the second last one in World 4. We were on that one for like 20 or 30 minutes. Like we were stumped on that one, and it was really great to get that one. Like we knew what we wanted to do by the end, and it was like, well, can I make this jump? And then I made that jump to get like back out of the one zone. And maybe I'm not describing this perfectly, but once we were in the right spot, we're like, yeah, yeah, because it's like, all right, now
Screaming.
we just gotta shoot 2 portals, and we got it, and then wrapped up that puzzle. So that, yeah, Portal 2, great game. We're
Yeah.
gonna continue it at some point, probably this week or maybe this weekend, and finish the co-op. I actually have. I mean, there's a single player too. I haven't even touched a single player.
Yeah, I played a little bit of the single player way back in the day. But I imagine it doesn't have as much of the same charm that two player does. Like, how you're mentioning how we were sitting and just like talking about the puzzle. And I remember feeling like, wow, I'm stuck on this thing. In any other game that I am where I'm stuck on something, I'm frustrated, kind of annoyed, like I just want to smash my head against the wall and get through this thing that's bothering me. But I liked being stuck on that puzzle. It felt like we really had to think outside the box and cooperate. And eventually we did it. And damn, did it feel good. Felt
Yeah,
so
man.
good.
I really enjoyed Portal 2. I'll definitely be finishing the co-op with you and probably delving into the single player sooner rather than later. But
Let's do
other
it.
games I've been playing, I was in a car ride the other day and I tried to boot up Red Dead 2 to continue my playthrough. Lo and behold, I did not realize you need a internet connection to play Red Dead 2. This is the first time I ran into this issue.
What?
The Steam launcher immediately jumps into the Rockstar Games launcher, and Rockstar is looking for an internet connection to verify your purchase so that you can play the game, which is just so annoying. I mean, that's just like so stupid to have a portable PC and like run into an issue like that. So bad, Rockstar. Stop making me do that. I own the game. I want to play it, but I'm not allowed to if I don't have an internet connection. So anyway, I'm in the car ride and let me just like play something else, during this car ride. started off a game that I was not really expecting to play, but I played a good bit of it so far. I'm probably about 5 hours in now after playing it a little bit. Fire Emblem: The Binding Blade. So this is another Fire Emblem game. I played my first Fire Emblem game last year. This game is the sixth in the series, but it's a sequel to Fire Emblem 7, which is the one I played. So stay with me, man, because the Fire Emblem timeline is weird like that.
Okay.
But anyway, in this game, you play as Roy, who, if anyone's played Super Smash Bros., you know Roy from Fire Emblem. This is his game. Um, so cool to see like the source material of where Roy comes from. This is actually a Japan only release. This has never been officially translated. So I'm playing a fan translation. And for all intents and purposes, the translation is perfect so far. It's fine. I feel like I'm getting the gist of the story. People have gone out of their way to say this is one of the better fan translations out there, and I can tell. Um, and yeah, it's the same setting as Fire Emblem 7, the other game I played. In this game, you play as Roy, who is the son of the protagonist in Fire Emblem 7. And it's just kind of like your typical fantasy sword kind of story where you're playing as this protagonist who's just like a general good guy. His country, Lycia, is being invaded by this like mad king over in the country of Bern. And you gotta rally the troops and you gotta fight. And I'm sure like we'll get more complicated as it goes on, as Fire Emblem games typically like delve into like some different stuff besides just surface level, nations invading your nation.
Yeah.
But so far so good. I'm enjoying it. It's a lot harder than Fire Emblem 7. And I'm only like 5 or 6 chapters in. So I'm a little afraid like all my troops are gonna die and I might just like get stuck. But we'll see. It's
Kind of
hard right
intense.
now, but it's good.
Yeah, that like intense. I feel like, especially if you're in a war scenario, that difficulty can really lend to the immersion, right? Like,
It
how,
does.
like, I
Uh,
prefer the higher difficulty on Helldivers for that reason.
Yeah, I mean, like Fire Emblem, especially the classic Fire Emblems, have the permadeath mechanic. So once you lose a
Ooh.
unit, you lose them. You cannot, they're not coming back. Obviously, if the protagonist dies, you just restart the chapter. You just lose the chapter.
Yeah.
But it definitely makes you more attached to your troops and makes you think even more strategically on the battlefield because you really don't want to screw up and lose a troop. Um, One complaint I have so far is like I can spend 3 minutes thinking of my move. I'm moving everyone in just the right spots. They're attacking troops. They're not at any risk of being hurt. Blah blah blah. And then the next turn, like four more troops come out of the castle that like you had no idea were gonna come out. And I've had like two of my three troops that I've lost die in that way, just because
Well,
troops come out of like the stairs or out of the castle, and like two or three just gang up on my one weak guy and just kill him. I'm just like, all right, well that's cool. Like I just spent all
yeah,
this time planning this move, only to be kind of screwed over by like a scripted event that I had no way of seeing coming. So
yeah, that
besides
feels
that,
bad.
yeah, did not feel great. But besides that, I'm just like, all right, lost my archer, whatever, man. We ride. We still got Roy. We got the crew together. We're just gonna have to keep riding with it. So I'll probably keep playing it for a bit. Maybe if I'm still enjoying it all the way through, I'll make it to the ending. I can kind of sense the difficulty is going to be an issue though.
Yeah, I think that especially the mechanic of things happening that you didn't expect. Like, yeah, it's fun to always throw a wrench into the gameplay so that it's more engaging and interesting. But there's a balance you got to strike where if that keeps happening, especially since you're not even that far into the game. Like, if that
Yeah.
keeps happening, that's gonna get real old, like real quick. So,
Yep.
but that's good. I'm glad. It's really nice to hear the like a hands-on perspective of the Fire Emblem games because I feel like I really only see them when somebody's complaining about a sword character in Smash. Really never played them myself, but now I really kind of want to. They sound like something I would really like. You know?
Yeah, dude. When you're ready to dive in, let me know because I will give you recommendations. Obviously, I played Fire Emblem 7, but there's other great entry points into this series from what I've been told. And I have two more on my shelf that I've picked up physically that I will get into at some point. Both Awakening and Engage. Engage is the one on the Switch. Uh, So yeah, I'll be playing them at some point. Like I just really like this. I'm like, damn, this genre, this franchise, something I never really thought I'd be into, but I'm like really digging it. And I'll be playing more Fire Emblem games for sure.
Yeah, and that turn-based style is like right up my alley. I love Pokemon, so I love that
Yeah.
combat. So definitely would lend myself to that. And find you a friend like Ryan who is just like, yeah, let me know when you want to get into this. I'll just give it to you.
Yeah.
Find you a friend like Ryan. Uh,
Yeah. It,
so
it helps with a bunch of physical games. I like
true.
sharing, that kind of
That's
stuff.
such a
So
good point. I never thought about that. I have mostly
right.
digital games. I
Gotta
can't
get
win
physical,
those.
man. Yeah. Come on,
You
dude.
can't give your friends a game if it's on digital. Man, that
And all your
that
friends
just
getting mad at you.
yeah. Well, I mean, I don't. Yeah, no, there's no way I can wiggle my way out of this one. It's just digital is just not the way to go. I'm part of the problem. I'm sorry. So, uh, yeah, for me, what I've been playing, Monster Hunter. I'm playing Monster Hunter Wilds. I already talked about that, so we can move on. Also been playing Ash of Creation. Haven't given up on that. Testing, submitting my bug reports, running around like I'm in a D&D campaign, having a great time. What has changed for Alexander, the strongest pirate since the last episode? He has moved up in the ranks of the guild of the actual pirates. Now, the my guild is very tight knit. There is actually a policy within the guild called there's an OPSEC policy. Now, if anybody doesn't know what OPSEC is, it's literally operational security. Other guilds will try to find either content created by the guild and like get into our guild Discord and try to steal information and use it against us, which is so cool. I just love that idea. Uh, so I got to be careful how much I share. Um, but I can share that our guild has like a dedicated PvP ranking system where it's like, you join the guild. Let's say you want to start getting more involved in player versus player. You join the Armada of the actual pirates. And the Armada is just like people who want to learn how to PvP, muster the forces when the wars start. Then a step above that is the Vanguard. The Vanguard is like, those are the, higher level, decent PvPers who are online at most times. Well, Alexander is now officially a part of the Vanguard. He is extremely honored to be counted amongst the strongest of the pirates. He is very, very honored. And there's one step above that, which I cannot mention because they will get angry at me if they ever find a clip. So, but I'm going for it, and I am being interviewed for that position. And so that just goes to show, like, the social sandbox aspect of this game is just incredible. Like, I'm meeting all these new people in the guild. I'm meeting people in other guilds and talking to them, and like that's the story being told. Is all of this stuff that I'm talking about? None of it is in story game. It's all between the players. I just can't say enough, man. The performance has increased really well too, and I've just been having so much fun, man. And he gets stronger. Alexander gets stronger every day. Gets a little
That's
bit
sweet.
bigger. Yeah.
I love
So
that. I love that you basically are the security guard. Like, yeah, no one's coming in here. No one's no
yeah,
one's hearing our secrets. That's
yeah.
cool.
That. So have you ever heard of Eve Online before?
No.
So Eve Online is like the biggest, most popular example of a social sandbox game. It's like there's political intrigue. There's spies and spy networks and economic battles and like trade wars and tax havens. That's
Dang.
that's where all of this is going, and I see the bones of that stuff developing, and like just to think that I'll be able to. And Eve Online is like very extremely pay to win, very not good in terms of the dev team. Like they're just kind of sleazy, money grubby, you know.
Yeah.
Intrepid and Ash of Creation, we don't have those problems. And if they do, I'll leave. I will never play the game again if they end up doing pay to win and just like treating the
Yeah.
players bad. But to be able to have a fantasy based game where I can do stuff like on Eve Online, which I always wanted to do, but never wanted to engage because pay to win. Like it's just I can't wait, man. Just a good time to be a gamer all around.
Absolutely, dude. I'm glad you're having a good time with that. Any other games you've been playing this week before we wrap up the show?
No, no, that's obviously Portal and Monster Hunter Wilds, but like it hasn't been too much time since the last episode. But I will say, ever since the announcement of Pokemon Champions, the like battle sim,
Mm.
I feel it. I feel it
Okay.
wiggling its way back into my brain again. I'm just waiting for when I finally cave and start going all in on Pokemon competitive again. It's gonna happen.
Yeah, man. I might hop on Pokemon Showdown, do a Gen 1 rule set, and have a team full of 6 horsies. That's how I like to play.
I would
So
crush you.
no
It
further
wouldn't even be
questions,
close.
no answers. Yeah. That's just what I like, dude. All right.
No comment.
All right. Well, let's wrap up the show there. That's going to do it for this edition of KongaCast. Thank you, everyone, for tuning into this episode. If you like what you heard, make sure to rate 5 stars on Spotify or Apple Music and follow the show to hear more. To stay up to date on the show, make sure to follow us on Twitter at KongaCast. For all business inquiries, please email kongacast@gmail.com. Thanks again for listening. Have a great day, and we'll see you next week.
Take care. Bye bye.